camera.
There we go.
Okay, so this is the History Explorers with Stella and Nora. There we go. Okay, I cut off a little bit. Okay, so we're going to be talking about Independence Day, which is the 4th of July, which is today. And what is Independence Day that you know about?
Oh, it's to celebrate the independence
Of America. Okay, so
I do not know what
you
that
don't know. Okay,
is.
so yes. So July 4th, 1776 is when we declared our independence from Great Britain. So we used to belong to them. Great Britain is a country in Europe, so like France, Germany, England, or Great Britain. So that was Europe, and they had colonies all over the world. Colonies is where it's basically, it's where it's someone else's land, but a European country comes over and says that they own it now.
Mm-hmm.
Does that seem fair?
No.
No. Okay, so lots of people had colonies here. England, France, and Spain. The 13 colonies, which were the original colonies in America, in North America, were from Great Britain. Now, Great Britain had a king. They were a monarchy. Do we have a king now?
I don't think so.
No, we don't have a king.
Oh.
Europe they all had kings and queens, monarchies. They believed that the king
So
or
they had
queen...
palace?
Yes, they had palaces and castles.
Oh my gosh.
They believed that their god, or their kings, were gods. Does that sound right to you?
No.
No. And so the king was the main boss, and he just got to tell everyone what to do. He also got to tell them what religion to be. And like,
Oh wow.
when there was a new king, if he decided he wanted to be this religion, like Catholic instead of Protestant, he could send out an order to go kill everyone that was the wrong religion.
Oh my god.
Does that sound cool?
No.
Does that sound cool? No. We're you babies, so that definitely does not sound cool to us,
What is
right?
UU?
Unitarian Universalist. All about choice. Okay, so that's how the kings worked in Europe. So we were colonies, and we belonged to Great Britain. We weren't free. And they had a war here, Great Britain and France. And so they needed to put more soldiers, British soldiers, on the land in North America, and that cost money. So they had to have more money. So they decided to add a lot of taxes to things that were being sold in North America. So like when you bought tea or sugar or wine, you had to pay an extra money. So instead of $5, it was like $6. And then that extra money went to pay for the soldiers. But since it was a colony, the people in the colonies also couldn't vote in Parliament, in the British Parliament, which was kind of like the British government. So they had to pay, but they didn't get to vote. Does that sound fair?
No.
No. They wanted to be able to have their own government, their own taxes, their own stuff, right? So they were upset. One of the big things they did was, well, first of all, there was the Boston Massacre. People went out and protested, just like we do now with the signs and everything. People went out and protested against the king and Great Britain. And some of the people started throwing snowballs at the soldiers, and the soldiers got mad and just started shooting. And some people died. So that really made the colonists mad. And then they had the Boston Tea Party, where Great Britain sent a bunch of ships full of tea and said, you have to buy this tea and you have to pay the tax on it. And the colonists said, we don't want to. So they dressed up as Native Americans, which is kind of crappy because they like dressed up as someone else to blame them. It'd be like if you did something and you dressed up as Nora. Yeah. So they dressed up as Native Americans and they went on the ships and took all the boxes of tea and threw them in the ocean as a protest. It took a long time. It was a lot of tea, more than one ship. So that was the Boston Tea Party. No, I'm going fast. So much stuff. So anyway, that's what kind of started the war. The colonists decided that they wanted to be a separate country and not pay taxes and have their own government.
Mm-hmm.
And after the Boston Tea Party, one of the ways that Great Britain punished them was they said you have to house soldiers in your house. So like, oh, you have a nice house and everything, but now Sergeant Ralph is going to be living in your house. And you have to feed him and pay for him and everything. Cool? Cool.
Ralph.
Yeah. Do you think people like that?
No.
No. So they decided they wanted to be free. So the Continental Congress met, which was someone from each colony. And the British were going to move to arrest them. That was when the whole Paul Revere thing happened, which we'll go into more later. And on July 4th, 1776, they wrote the Declaration of Independence. So this was before they even won the war. They won the war later. They won the war in 1783. So we declared our independence as our own country, and we fought the war so that we were no longer part of Great Britain. We were the United States of America.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And then George Washington was elected the first president. So we're free from Great Britain.
Yeah.
Okay. When they wrote the Constitution, which you know when you go in the classroom and there's a whole list of like rules and things,
Yes.
like do your best work and I don't know, follow directions and all that kind of stuff.
I can't remember any of the rules that I had.
That's okay. Be respectful. We have a constitution they wrote about how things are going to be run in this new country. It's a brand new country.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things they decided was that Native Americans, Indians, wouldn't get to vote. Women didn't get to vote. Black people didn't get to vote. And the slaves, the people who were slaves, the people stolen from Africa, were only considered 3/5 of a person. They were not a whole person.
Wow.
That is just rude. All whole work
When you said that
and pay nothing.
that the people couldn't vote, it sounded like nobody could vote.
Right? The only people who could vote were white men who owned property.
That is just
And the only people who
horrible.
could hold office, so like be part of the government, were white men who owned property. So what's all this freedom? Who's free?
Us.
We're white, right? Who was free
Yeah.
back then?
No.
White men.
Yeah. No.
Yeah.
White win.
White men who owned property, so they had money. They weren't poor, right?
Yeah.
When Thomas Jefferson wrote the Declaration of Independence, right? So that's the big thing that they said, we're breaking away from Great Britain. And it started out, we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator, God, with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. At the time he wrote that, he owned slaves. So are all men created equal? I mean, they're created equal, but he certainly owned some of them, right? And only considered them 3/5 of a person. He actually wrote in the original declaration, he wrote a thing about letting the slaves go, and everyone was like, no, we don't want to do that, and so he took it out. So he originally thought maybe we could put that in, and everyone was like, no, we don't want to do that, so he kept it in, or he took it out, and he had hundreds of slaves. He didn't let them go. So he didn't even say, you know what? No one else wants to do that, so I'll take it out of the Declaration of Independence, but I'm going to have the courage of my own convictions, and I'm going to let my slaves go. He didn't even do that. He kept all his slaves. Okay, so just real quickly, some of these pictures. Okay, so like that picture. So here's all the guys like signing stuff. What do they look like? Do you see any women?
No.
Do you see any black people?
No.
Do you
They're
see
all
any?
white men that
Do you see any Native Americans?
no.
No. These are all our
They all look like white men that have lots of money.
right.
Wait, I want to see.
Our founding fathers. Yep. Do you see any women?
No.
You see any black people?
No.
You see any Native Americans?
No.
So, when this country was founded, it was founded on liberty for white men who had property. And to have property, you need money.
Did you only get these books for the video?
Oh, you can look at them.
Oh, yeah.
See, there's George Washington.
Where's George Washington?
All white men. One of the founding fathers, Alexander Hamilton, I know everyone loves that guy, but he even said that the Senate, congressman, and the president, when they are elected, they should serve for life because only the elite, the white men with money, had the brains and the fortitude to rule the mob. He didn't believe in the rule of the mob, the rule of the regular person, the rule of the regular man. So he said, there was a quote about how he'd heard that the voice of the people was the voice of God, but that was not actually true. So it seems to me like the founding fathers were actually a bunch of snobs. And their idea was right? That all people are created equal. Like, yeah, that sounds good. But even back then, they didn't do it. And still, we don't do it because you have to be wealthy to hold office. So to run an election and get elected, you have to have money. Women didn't get to vote until 1920. Black people didn't get to vote until the 60s, the Civil Rights Act. And do you remember who still doesn't get to vote today? We talked about this in one of our past ones. It's been a while. People who are in jail or in prison or who have been charged and convicted of felonies and who is thrown in prison more than other people.
The black people?
Black people are put in prison more than white people. They can commit the same crimes and black people are thrown in prison and not the white person. And so they still don't get to vote, a lot of them, which is something we really need to change. Everyone should be able to vote. And in this country, everyone still doesn't get to vote. We don't have a democracy, we have a republic, and it's led by the wealthy. So, who was free back then? To sum it up, who was free? White?
Yeah.
Men?
White men that had lots of money.
Had money. Who should be free?
The black people.
And
The women.
the women's, the black people, the Native Americans, the poor people,
The jail people.
the people in jail, immigrants, everybody, right?
Mm-hmm.
All the people should be free. All right, say goodbye, everybody.
Bye.
That makes it a good world.
Yeah, that would make it a good world. Say thanks for watching.
Thanks for watching.